On September 8, 2022, Queen Elizabeth II passed away at Balmoral Castle in Scotland, ending a reign that lasted more than 70 years. Her death marked the end of an era, a moment that stopped the world in silence. What followed next was unlike anything the United Kingdom had ever experienced. So today we're looking at 10 things that happened right after the Queen passed away. Number 10. Silence on TV. The moment Buckingham Palace announced the Queen's death, British television changed instantly. The BBC, Britain's main broadcaster, interrupted every program with a breaking news alert and switched to continuous coverage. All comedy shows, game shows, and entertainment were removed from the schedule. Even commercials disappeared. BBC presenters changed into black suits and ties, speaking in calm, serious tones. Across the country, people turned on their TVs and saw the same thing. Somber tributes, slow piano music, and the Queen's image fading into black. Radio stations followed the same rule. Every cheerful song was replaced with classical or mournful tracks. Even BBC Radio 1, known for pop music, stopped normal programming and switched to quiet reflection. The entire British media went silent, showing just how much the Queen meant to the nation. Number 9. The money begins to change. For decades, Queen Elizabeth's face appeared on every British coin and banknote. But after her passing, preparations began for a new chapter. The Royal Mint revealed plans to replace her portrait with that of King Charles III. New coins featuring the King's face were designed with one key difference. Charles faces the opposite direction. This tradition dates back hundreds of years, where each new monarch faces the reverse way from the previous one. And it wasn't only the United Kingdom that had to adapt. Dozens of Commonwealth countries, including Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, also began transitioning their currency. For the first time in generations, cashiers, collectors, and citizens would hold money that no longer carried the Queen's familiar profile. Still, her image will remain in circulation for years, symbolizing her lasting legacy. Number 8. The secret code activated. Before the world even heard the news, a series of secret messages were already in motion. The operation had a name: Operation London Bridge. This was the code phrase used to communicate the Queen's passing to key officials. Moments after her death at Balmoral Castle, the phrase "London Bridge is down" was quietly shared among top government figures. The Prime Minister was informed first, followed by officials in all 15 countries where the Queen was head of state. Only after these notifications did the news reach the BBC and other networks. The plan ensured everything happened in perfect order, respectfully, securely, and without chaos. The code had been prepared decades in advance, but for the first time in history, it was finally used. Number 7. King Charles III takes the throne. Immediately after the Queen's passing, Prince Charles became King Charles III. There was no delay. Royal tradition states that the throne never stands empty. The very next day, the Accession Council met at St. James's Palace to formally declare him the new monarch. The announcement began with the words, "The Queen is dead. Long live the King." Crowds gathered outside cheering and waving flags, marking the official beginning of his reign. The national anthem also changed overnight. What had been sung for 70 years as "God Save the Queen" became "God Save the King." Government websites, military badges, passports, and even police uniforms began preparing for updates from Her Majesty to His Majesty. For millions of Britons, saying "the King" again felt strange, something they hadn't heard since the 1950s. Number 6. The world went black. Right after the announcement, Buckingham Palace became the center of global attention. Within minutes, a royal footman dressed in black placed a framed notice on the palace gates confirming the Queen's death. Across the country, visual changes swept in. The royal family's website turned entirely black. The BBC changed its on-screen graphics to grayscale. News anchors all wore black clothing as a sign of respect. Famous landmarks dimmed their lights. The London Eye went dark, Big Ben's chimes were silenced, and flags across every government building were lowered to half-staff. Even on social media, the royal account stopped all regular posting and displayed just a single black and white portrait of the Queen. The United Kingdom had officially entered mourning. Number 5. The world learns the news. The official announcement came at 6:30 p.m. UK time, when the royal family posted on social media, "The Queen died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon." Within minutes, the world reacted. TV channels across Europe, Asia, and the Americas switched to breaking news coverage. The Eiffel Tower dimmed its lights. The Empire State Building in New York lit up in royal purple and silver. World leaders released statements. U.S. President Joe Biden called her a stateswoman of unmatched dignity. Even political rivals and critics around the globe expressed deep respect. Meanwhile, in the United Kingdom, church bells rang in tribute, and thousands of people gathered outside Buckingham Palace to lay flowers and candles. Rain fell gently in London that night, making the scene feel even more historic and emotional. Number 4. The Journey of the Coffin. In the days that followed, Operation London Bridge unfolded step by step. The Queen's coffin was first placed in the ballroom at Balmoral Castle so the royal staff could pay their respects. It was then transported in a slow procession to Edinburgh, where crowds lined the streets to watch the hearse pass by. The coffin was laid at St. Giles's Cathedral, and tens of thousands of people waited for hours to file past and say goodbye. After the service in Scotland, the coffin was flown to London. It arrived at Buckingham Palace, greeted by King Charles and the royal family, before being moved to Westminster Hall, where the public viewing began. This part of the plan was called Operation Feather. For 4 full days, people waited in line for up to 24 hours, some even overnight, to pay their respects as she lay in state. Number 3. A nation in mourning. The official period of national mourning lasted for 10 days, ending with the state funeral. During this time, every flag across the UK stayed at half-staff, and all royal engagements were cancelled. Schools held assemblies to talk about her life. Sporting events, including football and cricket matches, were postponed. The London Stock Exchange paused trading on the day of her funeral. Shops displayed black banners, and public transport screens showed her image. Across the Commonwealth, countries like Canada and Australia declared their own days of mourning. It was the first time in modern history that so many nations simultaneously paid tribute to one woman. Number 2. The state funeral. On September 19, 2022, Queen Elizabeth II was given a full state funeral at Westminster Abbey, the first British monarch to receive one since 1760. Thousands of invited guests filled the Abbey, including world leaders, royals, and dignitaries. Around 4 billion people watched the event live on television, making it one of the most viewed broadcasts in history. After the service, the coffin traveled through the streets of London, passing landmarks like Buckingham Palace and the Mall. Crowds threw flowers, waved flags, and stood in silence as it passed. Finally, the Queen's coffin was taken to Windsor Castle, where a private ceremony was held at St. George's Chapel. She was laid to rest beside her husband, Prince Philip, her father, King George VI, and her mother, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. The words carved on her stone read simply, Elizabeth II, 1926 to 2022. Number 1. The end of an era. When the Queen died, the world lost more than a monarch. It lost a symbol of stability. She had worked with 15 prime ministers, from Winston Churchill to Liz Truss. She lived through World War II, the rise of the internet, and the pandemic. For many, she was the only monarch they had ever known. Her image had been printed, televised, and remembered for 7 decades. In the days after her funeral, tributes poured in from everywhere. Musicians, politicians, even children who drew pictures and left them outside the palace gate. Documentaries about her life filled TV screens. People shared stories of how she smiled, her humor, her service, and her sense of duty. It wasn't just the end of her life. It was the closing of a chapter in world history. Britain had entered a new age, the Carolean era, under King Charles III. So those are the 10 major things that happened after Queen Elizabeth II passed away. From the silent TV screens and global mourning to the rise of King Charles III, every moment showed how deeply she was loved and respected. Her death united the world in grief, but her life continues to inspire strength, grace, and service. Which of these moments touched you the most? The massive global tribute, or the quiet dignity of her final journey to Windsor? Let me know in the comments below. And before you go, don't forget to like this video, hit subscribe, and tap that notification bell for more fascinating history countdowns. Thanks for watching.